And welcome back to our Book Talk segment of the show. Great to welcome back. Yeah, man's been with us before when his first edition of this book came out, and the brand new second edition has come out now. It's called The Beer Bible. Everything you want to know about beer and what to drink, where, when, and why. We're joined today by Jeff Alworth on the telephone. And Jeff, good to talk to you again. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
I think we're checking the archives. I guess it was 2015, right? That's when the first edition came out. So about 6 years ago, we had you on. It was great to talk to you then. So I guess you've been busy putting the second one together since then, right?
Yeah, I have. Mostly in recent years. I didn't expect to have to put one out this quickly, but it turns out there's a lot of changes happening in beer, and it made me jump in and try to document what's going on. So here we are 6 years later, and I have a new edition out.
I was going to say, I mean, with beer, and it seems to me now, even since the first edition came out, I know we talked about it before, but so many microbreweries. I know down here where we are in Sarasota and Tampa Bay, Florida, there's quite a few of them. I guess that's kind of been the biggest change in beer distribution or sales, right, in the last 20, 25 years, the microbreweries. Am I right about that?
Yeah, it has been huge the way American craft brewing has evolved. Even the existence of American craft brewing is unusual for most drinkers. Most people didn't know that, where their beer came from. They just assumed it came from a giant plant somewhere. And nobody knew that you could start a brewery until craft breweries did it. They didn't know you could make a little brewery and sell it at the corner brew pub. And so once Americans figured that out, that business model became popular. Now you see that business model replicated around the world. And you see the explosion of breweries in the United States. I think when we talked last, there were probably about 4,000 breweries in the United States, and now there are over 9,000. So we're really seeing quite a revolution in terms of business models and approaches to making beer. And I'm sure when I did my first the beer tour, the book tour the first time, I stopped in Tampa at a new brewery there, and I was really astonished at Tampa's scene, and you're seeing that everywhere. If you're in a town of any size, you're going to have a lot of local breweries to go to, and I think that means that people are really drinking more and more good beer.
I used to work at Busch Gardens for a long time ago for about a year, and that was part of their deal. You could walk through. If you worked there, you got I think 2 cases a month for free. But you could walk through the brewery right on the park there, and that's where they brewed. I don't think they do it anymore since they sold. But that was the big one there for Busch Beer and Budweiser.
Yes, that's a classic technique in payment. Historically, anybody who worked for a brewery would get some beer from the brewery, and you see that less and less now. But that was always kind of a classic thing. And if you talk to, especially in Europe, if you talk to brewers who worked at old European breweries, they'll tell you about all the beer they used to get and share with their family. It's a nice perk if you happen to work at one.
I guess we're kind of conditioned. I grew up a sports fan, and all the games, baseball in particular, sponsored mostly by New York with Schaefer, and then Rheingold and Ballantine beers, and you kind of think, well, maybe there's 4 or 5. Miller was another one, those great Miller commercials, and you think maybe there's only 4 or 5. But like you said, now with all the smaller breweries and even microbreweries, you really have to kind of do some research, I guess, into finding the beer that kind of best for you, right? I mean, if you want just regular beer, that's fine, but I guess all these microbreweries and smaller ones have different appeals to different kind of tastes, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true. As we have more and more breweries, they're becoming more and more specialist breweries. So you'll find smaller breweries that really focus on, lagers or maybe farmhouse styles, or just anything that they're interested in. So you as a consumer, you do. It does make things a little bit more complicated, especially if you're just looking for kind of a classic beer that you're, maybe familiar with from back in the day. Those are not always so easy to find anymore.
I don't know if we mentioned it last time or talked about it, but I had just recently seen, maybe it just came out then, where you see beer advertised with lime in it. I never heard of that before. I guess that's relatively new. I mean, that's, again, one of the different kind of flavors in beer with lime in it. That's kind of an odd combination, but I guess people like it, huh?
Well, yeah, lime is actually, if you think about Mexican beer, they're often served with citrus, and that's a kind of a classic presentation. We're seeing more and more beer made with other fruits, which is less common, but many of the hops that are used in making beer have a fruity flavor, and it encouraged brewers to think, hey, well, if we can get this flavor of grapefruit out of this particular hop variety, what happens if we just put actual grapefruit in it? And so things were off to the races. But yeah, lime is a classic. I'm over here on the West Coast, and we have a lot of Mexican restaurants, and you order a Modelo, and they'll put a wedge of lime on it. So that's kind of an obvious choice. Is like, well, why are we putting it on the side of the beer? Why don't we just put it in the beer?
Now, with beer, you mentioned it's made out of hops. I guess barley, wheat, I suppose. How much change in taste can you make it without adding something to it, or is the barley hops and whatever else grain is put into it, is that different now, or is that changing?
Well, actually, you can make beers taste radically different just with the without adding anything into it. The four ingredients that brewers use: barley malt, hops, water, and yeast. Those four ingredients can get you basically any flavor you want, depending on how you combine them and how you prepare them and how you which process you use to brew. So it's a very diverse product, and even before you get into adding stuff, once you start adding stuff, then basically you can make a beer taste like anything. But even just using the four classic ingredients and using different techniques, it can be quite a diverse product.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of its more I think endearing qualities.
Before we run out of time, let's give the audience an idea of the changes since the first edition. I know, kind of, going through the book myself, you give so many different places you can go visit to try different types of beers. What was the biggest change you had to make, or biggest update you had to make in the second edition?
Yeah, I think it was mostly around the kind of beers that American craft breweries make, which are usually called IPAs or have the word IPA in them. These are the beers that are made with local American hops, which are quite assertive and strong. And for a long time, we didn't really know how to make beer with them without overwhelming it. And then in the late 2000s and early 2010s, brewers really developed these new techniques to brew with them to make these IPAs, which have become super popular. And all of that happened. A lot of that happened after I wrote the first edition, so I needed to return to the book and update how they did that, because it's now influential worldwide. So it's quite a trend in the world, and it's all starting right here in the United States.
Yeah. And again, Jeff Alworth also hosts a podcast called Beervana, right? You still do that?
I do, yeah, with my friend who's an Oregon State University economics professor. We talk about beer and business.
Well, that's great. And again, just about everything you want to know about beer, where to go visit. You got great pictures in there as well, but all the different types of beer. And I guess you have an interesting life, Jeff. You can go around and do a lot of taste testing. That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is indeed.
The Beer Bible, second edition, is the name of the book. And Jeff, give out your website again, if you will. People can get more information on the book.
Thank you. Yeah, it's beervanablog.com. And all my writing and all my book stuff is there, so check it out.
Great. And I guess as beer continues to change, I would imagine there'll be a third edition somewhere down the line, right? I hope so.
If it changes, I'll write about it.
Love to have you back at that time, but in the meantime, we invite people to get the second edition of the Beer Bible. And Jeff Alworth, great to talk to you again, and we'll do it again down the road. Thanks for being with us.
All right. Thanks so much.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.